My name is Janse van Rensburg, and I'm guest curator for the exhibition One and the Many at Javett-UP. The One and the Many is a theme that I've been thinking about for a long time. It evokes many different things. For me, it's about our place as individuals within groups or within constellations of people. It's also how we relate to society at large. It also connects for me to indigenous philosophies around the collective and collective responsibilities. But it's also about the underlying factors that frames complex cosmologies. And what I mean with that is also the way that worldviews, complex worldviews, are sometimes tied together. And that's where I think the exhibition kind of dives straight in. The selection process for many of the artworks in these exhibitions were kind of given. From a curatorial methodology, I think it's very important to also look closely at what you are given as a starting point for what you work with. So worked with the curatorial team here at Javett-UP through a number of workshops, thinking workshops, looking very carefully at these collections. And also then kind of like try to listen to what these artworks tell us. And I think through these processes, certain kind of thematics and ideas started to emerge that I thought would be interesting to explore, that maybe sits a little bit in a different approach to kind of how art history in South African context is maybe approached. So these thematics, it was listening to the artworks, and then kind of the thematics, constellations of thematics started to emerge. But I thought it was very important to bring in contemporary artists into these conversations, because these collections, and there are three that we are working with in this exhibition. It's the Javett family collection, the South 32 collection, and the Bongitlomo collection at Javett-UP. And these three collections give us a kind of a slice or a spectrum of works from the 1960s to the 2000s. So it's very particular kind of art histories that's represented in these collections. And I thought it would be very important to invite contemporary artists to be in dialogue with these collections, to also speak to the present, and also how these past, or these different pasts and these different histories kind of inform our present, but in that process also give us some kind of insight into what's possible for the future. It's very hard sometimes to be declarative or definitive as a curator. I also see curatorial practice or institutional practice to also ask questions. So hopefully there's also some provocations within these different thematics that are happening that also make visitors to the exhibition think, question, maybe kind of rethink some things that they might have thought. But yeah, that's, I think, the kind of interesting place for me. We had different constellations, and one of them is the altar. That's a section that deals with metaphysical themes, the spiritual, with the religious in South African art. We have a section that we're standing in right now, which is called the garden. The garden is a very evocative space for me. It's between the inside and the outside. It's a buffer zone. And within garden spaces, all possibilities can occur. It's also about our relationship to nature, to animals, to plant life, to insects, and how, it's also a troubled kind of relationship. Another thematic is fractured forms, which looks at the way that artists has moved towards abstraction, both because of, I think, societal pressure and a move away from figurative art, the constraints of figurative art, into the possibility of abstraction towards possibilities of freedom and liberation. Again, those are thematics that I think coming back into the present very, very, very strongly. So that's some of the thematics that I think speak to also our overall broader exhibition of One and the Many. This project has been an absolute gift on so many levels. One moves through the world thinking you know a lot, and then you have an encounter or something is, a challenge or a task is given to you where you suddenly realize that you might not know as much as you thought you do. It was a tremendous learning curve for me. Whilst I am very familiar with South African art and the modern and contemporary art histories, so I also realized that I've not worked necessarily with this period of South African art so closely. I've worked mostly within a contemporary space. So the encounter for me with these artists and artworks and deepening my knowledge and excitement about also learning more about this has been really phenomenal. And also realizing how, if you look at these histories, again, it's something that comes back the whole time. How does it speak to our present? And the young artists that we work with in this exhibition as well, who we invited to take part of this, how they relate to it. Katlego Tlabela, for example, mines the South African art history in his practice in the most extraordinary way. And we were able to make selections from these collections that speak to his practice very directly. So that's one example that I think where possibilities just started to open up in the most beautiful way. The exhibition is set up as to be as inviting as we possibly can to visitors coming in. We thought very carefully about the choreography of visitors through the spaces, the kind of experiences that they have. We also invite visitors to art centers and galleries and museums to look and listen carefully, to experience, to be open to their senses in these spaces, to experience. But I also hope that they bring their own experience into the spaces as well, and that they can extract from this something that they can take away with them. But we also gave quite a bit of attention to visitors feeling comfortable, also some ways to slow down a little bit, to not rush through spaces, and to kind of give a sense of comfort also within this. But they also hope that they get as excited as we are or as I am about the rich cultural heritage that we have here at Javett-UP. People should come see the exhibition here at Javett-UP because it tells our stories. It tells our stories through extraordinary artworks. It tells stories by artists. It is about artists. It's also understanding the wonderful, extraordinary, complex, beautiful messed upness of our realities that I think and hope really inspire people that come through it.